So don't do that now. Speaking of transfers and Manchester United, what did you make of Garnacho? And he's Chelsea, or I stay here and don't play football for 6 to 12 months. What did you make of this yesterday, Mark?
Well, look, I think there's a few United fans that are like me on this, who genuinely backed Garnacho for a long time when a lot of United fans were turning against him. And I'd like to say those fans were correct. I ignored the worrying. I mean, he even liked one of my tweets. So, which I could be really, grateful for, but, I've grown without Garnacho liking my tweet. So it's not that important. I think that it's always been for me immaturity with immense potential. But that came out from Fabrizio, and I'd just going live at 8 o'clock last night, and I was like, that is incredible, because Fabrizio is not the sort of person that puts out speculation. So he's had that where Garnacho's people have said to him, if they don't let me go to Chelsea, I'm going to sit on my arse for 12 months. And I thought, you've been sat on your arse for 5 weeks and no one's talking about you. What do you think the fan base is going to do if you don't go to Chelsea? We're not going to start going, oh my God, we're just going to go, well, let's crack on with what we've got. It would probably bother Man United financially, if we're being completely honest. But there's a thing here where Chelsea will not be the villain, I don't think, because Chelsea's reputation in transfers over the last 20 years is incredible. Whatever you think about Chelsea Football Club, the industry of transfers is different to fan base rivalry. When Man United do a transfer over the last 10 years, and hopefully it's changing now, they see them coming with their big clown boots and makeup. When Chelsea do a transfer, their reputation is incredible, whether it's Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal. I mean, they've just sold Madueke to Arsenal. They sold Mount to Man United. The rivalry doesn't exist in the transfer world if you're good at transfers, and they're good. So what I found with Garnacho's statement was Chelsea probably felt like going, shut the fuck up. You're making our job difficult. We're going to negotiate. Leave it to the experts, right? We know what we're doing. We don't need you to beg it to us by going, I'll sit on my arse if you don't let me go to Chelsea for 30 million. And the interesting thing is, overnight, Fabrizio says, we're in the final stages of this deal, which means Man United and Chelsea are amicably, respectfully working together on a deal. So all it is, again, is incredible naivety and immaturity from a player that should know, needs to fucking grow up. He's going to be a Chelsea player. I think there's a really good talent there. I know loads of Chelsea fans are concerned about him. I've said, look, he's always available. He is a talent, but he's clearly got immaturity issues, and he's clearly surrounded by people who don't tell him what to do. And if they can sort that out at Chelsea, you'll probably get a decent player. But it's just remarkable, some of his behaviours this summer. He's just got no. I mean, how to destroy your legacy at Manchester United. I mean, nobody likes him anymore, and lots of people did like him. I did like him, and I'm just like, you've basically shat all over the club. And again, that goes back to what I was talking about at the start. Chelsea fans will probably be applauding this. If he does well at your club and Real Madrid come in, he'll do exactly the same to you. Exactly the same. And that's the concern. These small wins you have, it's never a good look when a player's behaving like that. The only thing I would say about Garnacho is he is young and he might grow up, but he's walked around in a Villa shirt. He's liked tweets about stuff. He's there threatening Man United. And you're sort of I think his ego's out of control as well. I think he idolises Ronaldo and he thinks he's close. And he idolises Ronaldo without actually probably doing any fucking research on Ronaldo at all, because this is not the behaviour of a 21-year-old Ronaldo or Messi.
No, I agree. I'm not happy with what he's done. I think you're not going to endear yourself. You're actually putting more pressure on yourself when you move away as well. And like all the other players doing it too, that are forcing these moves, Isak will have more pressure to deliver after the process that he's going through. That's absolutely true. It's why I want this Belieber deal, which we're going to get into in a minute, to be done more amicably. Not because I want to say, well, my player's a better man than yours. None of that stupid bullshit. Just it does relinquish a little bit of pressure. The only element that I view on this that I don't think is different from you, it's just an extension, I suppose, is if, for instance, so this was true and we're not happy with the price we're getting, all I would be saying to Garnacho is, well, listen, you can go if you want, but you and your agent have got to get us the price we want. The only time I'm going to be disappointed is if we roll over and sell him for £25 million. The fact that that Broja went for 20 million, the fact that we've seen other players I don't think are light years ahead of Garnacho go for 55, 60 millions this year. That for me is where I look at it and go,
what would you price him at? What would you take as a bare minimum?
Bare minimum 40 million.
I agree.
With add-ons, and I would be looking at, and this is almost not. This is a little bit of reaction to Chelsea fans. They're like, well, if he works, he'll be a great squad player. If he doesn't, we'll sell him at profit. Cool. Then let's add a sell-on clause in there as well. So that's what I think we need to look at, is say, yep, you can have him at 40 million plus 5, 40 million plus 8, but we want a 15, 20% sell-on clause. So if you then sell him for 50 million pounds in a year to somebody in Saudi, we then pick up another 10 million pound of that, which means we walk away with the better part of 50 to 60 million. And you go, okay, I can stomach that as an example. Then I'm happy. And I am looking at that. And we've done some good business. Timing of a couple of our deals took too long, but actually the structure of a lot of our deals this summer so far has been pretty good. The fact that we're quite close potentially to getting a deal in the region around 40 odd million for Rasmus, a player that I do think, by the way, if he goes to Italy, I think Rasmus is going to kill it. I don't think he's just this. I don't think he's as terrible as his form last year suggests. But if we're able to pick up a deal with a 40 million, 45 million option on Rasmus, we have to be getting at least that, if not more, for Garnacho, who's been better in the last 2 or 3 years than Rasmus Hojlund. So I'm hoping we get a good deal. Because again, one of the biggest reasons why I want a good deal brings us. We're going to play some clips. We've got other United players, but of course, we've seen these stories emerging of record bids, and I've seen Nabil here, who is the guy that broke the Euro news as an example, talking about big bids coming in for Belieber. Where's your head at with this deal? There's talk of terms are agreed, or what's the phrase that journalists use? Personal terms will be no problems now come out. We're not backing away. Where's your head at with this one? What's your hot take on this?
I think it's a really unique deal. And I've been saying this on the United stand, like terms have been agreed and there has been a transfer request, but it's not traditional like a Isaac or anything like that, because you first of all have to understand Brighton. Like, we've literally tapped Belieber up. If we've been in talks with Belieber, you can't do that unless Brighton are on board. So you need to understand, Chelsea fans would understand this. Other people who've dealt with Brighton will understand this. Brighton will sell. Their stance is, we will sell. We don't want to sell, but we will sell, because we are obviously going to sell these players at some point. So Brighton will go, look, we don't want to sell Belieber, but if you give us what we want, we will sell him. So you can talk to him, because we don't have that problem. So we've agreed personal terms with Belieber. He's obviously told Brighton that he wants to go, because he's talking to us. It doesn't mean it will go, because the big barrier is going to be paying what Brighton want. So I think that Manchester United would not have gone into this without knowing how much Caicedo cost, etc. So we know we're going to have to put in a realistic offer. And I think we will get him, because I think that what we've learned over the last 2 years is that when Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein drop a story about a Man United transfer, they're ridiculously well briefed. And I actually think Man United, to a certain extent, have actually utilised David Ornstein this year as almost an agent, because he's almost been the breaker before the deals really get going. So I just don't think United would. It's like when it said about Cesco last week or 2 weeks ago. Was it last week? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I knew we were going to get him, because Man United have briefed Ornstein that we want him, and we don't go for players unless we know they want us. So I think that as amazing as this deal is, and it's a great signing for us, and it's a huge deal, I think it will happen, because I think too much has gone on for United to go, oh, we're not paying that. And also Brighton will always have a price. So I can see something like 80 million up front and maybe 30 million in add-ons that are achievable over the next 2 years. But I think it will happen. I do. It's a weird thing, because I'm very much on the heels of United's inability to behave like a big club. But I actually, I'm always fair when I see it, and I think this deal will happen.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you. I think it will. I don't think we allow that briefing to go out. Brighton haven't said that he's not for sale or it won't happen. They're saying they're determined to keep him and they would like to keep him, but they are a selling club. I think it's about now that there's an element here of a few players need to go. I think we're close with Garnacho. I think we're close with Rasmus. There's a report that's come out today that the club are now telling Anthony, look, Real Betis know you want to go there. They're just not making an offer. There are other clubs, there's other, in Europe and in Saudi making bids. We now need you to make a decision. I think we'll see some movement in that. And I think it was Andy Mitten and Laurie Whitwell both put something out. It was on the same podcast talking about how actually there's a lot of interest in a lot of United players, maybe not the ones that are in what they call the bomb squad, but those players have wanted to stay. And he said that there's now this realization from a lot of them. And I think the last 2 preseason games have shown them this, that they're actually not going to feature a lot this year. So their minds are starting to change, which, United I think have been trying to make some of these players want to leave all summer, and they've not quite got the message. I think they are now doing that. So yeah, I like it. I like it. I think the deal will personally happen, and we'll be able to progress from there. On United players, I wanted to play this clip from the overlap. Paul Scholes here talking about Cesco. I want to get your view. Do you think this is fair analysis? Viewers, give us your opinions on this as well.
He'll have more chance at Newcastle to develop,
yeah,
which he needs now to be a Manchester United centre forward. As we found with Hojlund, as a 22-year-old kid, you've got to be ready. It's got to be now. And Hojlund just isn't quite good enough for that, as we've seen. But again, he's not had a chance to be developed. Him going to Newcastle might have been the best thing for him.
I think as well. I think
years.
you take away the club badge. It's the Eddie Howe effect. I've said this so often. Back in the day, I mean, like now, if ever Joe Linton comes out and has a bad game, I call him Bruce Linton, because that's the old Joe Linton. You've got this Eddie Howe Joe Linton who's completely changed under Eddie Howe. Now you take away Newcastle, you take away the support you get in the crowd, all of that. It is literally the Eddie Howe effect and what he does to younger players and developing players. He can turn a player around and make them amazing, and this is what I'm confused about with the likes of Cesco.
It's hard to turn United.
You can't turn down Man United for over Newcastle. You just can't.
You can't.
Look, Man United finished 16th last year. You finished where you did. Which club realistically is going to be successful first? Are Man United going to win the league before Newcastle ever do, if they ever do? Of course they are. So
but I think
that is why he wants to go there. But I'm saying from a United's point of view,
he's not ready.
Is it the best bit as business? I still think you're in the same boat as having Hojlund.
What do you make of that? There's a lot in there. Also, I think that Newcastle fan, I'm going to hit him up my link to Turkey if he wants it. But what did you make of that? The kind of pressure there being put upon Czech. This is obviously before the agreement went through, so it's a little old, but still, the player needs to be ready. Will he get developed? What's your view on that?
I think Scholes is one of the better ones when he's talking, but obviously, he sometimes misses, as do we all. Look, I think comparisons with Rasmus are a bit off because Rasmus had 1 year. His breakthrough year was Atalanta, and then he came to Man United, and then he was thrown up front at 20, not 22, with no backup striker. Like Martial wasn't fit in the year 1, and then Xerxes not really a striker. So Rasmus sort of got thrown to the wolves with very, very little experience, and that was a stupid idea. And United need to look at that. Cesco's coming, and also he played in front of selfish people like Anthony, Garnacho, Rashford, who won't pass. So Cesco comes in with Mbeumo and Cunha, who are Premier League proven assisters. You've then got the fact that he's 22 now, not 20. And also he's played in the Champions League for the last 4 years, I think. So he's more ready for this than Rasmus. And also he's got better players behind him. But where I do agree with Scholes is that if you offered me Gyökeres or Cesco, I would take Gyökeres, because I do believe that United do need a striker that's ready to go. Unfortunately, you've got to be contextual. So I would say to Paul Scholes in that situation, well, are you saying Man United shouldn't have gone for Cesco then? And if so, who would you go for? Because if he then offers Calvert-Lewin up, I'm laughing. If he then offers up, Callum Wilson, I'm laughing. If he says Ollie Watkins, I'd say, you know what? I was having this conversation on the United stand a week before we signed Cesco. There's pros and cons. The trouble with Ollie Watkins is Premier League proven, experienced, but might get 2 years out of him. Cesco, not Premier League experience, but you could get 10 years out of him. So I do agree with him on a certain point, but it's not like we've got Man United made the wrong choice. There's risks with what's left in the window. If you offer me Gyökeres or Osimhen, I'm 100% taking it over Cesco. But with what was left in the market, and remember, this is August, I think we've done the best out of a bad situation. But there's risks. Of course, there's risks.
There is. I look at it this way as well. And one thing that I'd not really heard the professional part. I mean, lo and behold, Mark, the professional pundits, everything's short, sweet, quick. It's instant coffee rather than, a properly made one. And that's, when was the last time we had the manager who had a regimented system and style that he wasn't yielding from for any new player to join? For me, that gives us a much higher percentage of success. And how would we know this? Because we have 12 years of data, 12 years of objective, unadulterated fact that when every 18 months you're changing your system and you're changing your style, when managers are consistently adapting to the players as opposed to making the players fit what they want and also buying the right profiles for the system that they have, that is not a breeding ground for development. That is not a breeding ground for players to get better. And it isn't just the case that we've ruined or helped to ruin young talent. We've had experienced players join us and not show the same quality here. There's a handful. Bruno, until his knee injuries, Latan did it. I mean, you start going, who else? Who else came in and has actually maintained their levels from their previous club? Quite a few players we signed last year. I thought Mads was very good. I thought De Ligt was very good as an example. But you start going through the players that we've signed, nearly every player has either stagnated or gone backwards, whether they're old, middle-aged, or young. Even like Christian Eriksen came in and was excellent. I know he got an injury, but then even he started to fade away. So I think that's all to do with not adapting to the players and about having a system and style and having the right players for it. So I am more confident of success from this new crop, not because they're better, not because they've been scouted better, but again, if we haven't done this, then we deserve to burn the club down. If we're not scouting people that are specifically designed for this style that the manager has said he won't yield from, then everyone at the club just needs, metaphorically speaking, needs to be put down like an old dog because we're never going to progress in that way. But I do get the point. He needs to be ready. But what is ready? Like, I look at if he gets 15 league goals in his first year, I look at that as pretty good, to be fair. Like we haven't had a player that's doing that for a long time. Luke here, thank you for encouraging everyone to hit the like button. Captain here says Garnacho is the embodiment of Man United, being without a footballing structure since Fergie. He's also part of the blame alongside his entourage. Yeah, listen, definitely. And his entourage haven't helped him out at all. Mark.